Namaste. My intention in this segment of our presentation is to further expand on the aspect of the 4D life, or the fourth dimension. And so I want to give some explanations so that you can see what we are talking about, understand what we're talking about when we talk about the 4D life. So the first illustration I want to talk about is that of the 4 dimensions exhibited in this way. The first dimension is a point, just one point, or one moment in time, just one point. That's one dimension. The second dimension would be that of a number of points that are in a line. So it's a number of points and they are going in a straight line. That's the second dimension. Then the third dimension would be that of a plane. So that's a number of lines that are together and they make a plane, or what we used to call a plank of wood if you want to do it in that way. So a plane would be a third dimensional item. And then the fourth dimension is that of a cube or a square or rectangle. So that's the fourth dimension. So you have a number of planks, a number of planes that are joined together to make a cube or to make a square. And so we're going to look at this again. We've given you at least 2 illustrations of this aspect of 4 dimensions. One was the pyramid that had 4 sides, and then the second one is this moving from a point to a cube. So you move through those items in that regard. The next item that we want to talk about is basically that of a caterpillar and his development into a butterfly. Actually, caterpillar has 4 stages as well. There is the embryonic stage in which it comes forth. That's the first dimension. The embryonic stage is the first dimension where it is conceived. The second dimension is it comes forth as a caterpillar. And you remember seeing caterpillars, I'm sure, in all parts, in all places where you've seen them at. So a caterpillar would be the second dimension. The third dimension would be when the caterpillar moves up into its cocoon or its chrysalis. And so that's the third dimension. And then the fourth dimension would be the emergence from the cocoon into the form or as the form of a butterfly. In regard to that. Let me do the next one now. The next one. Here's an individual. There are There are 4 ways to perceive certain things. 4 ways to perceive certain things. Let's talk about religious stories or stories in general, just stories in general. The first way is that you have no knowledge, no wisdom, no understanding. You have no knowledge, you have no wisdom, no understanding. It's like you're a blank slate. You just don't know what's going on whatsoever. None whatsoever. The second dimension would be that you have a story, a myth. In the Bible, you have the story of David and other individuals like that. You have the story of Jesus. You have the story that is told, or the history of somebody who lived so long ago that you don't know really what to believe, what not to believe in regard to that individual, but you choose to believe certain things about that individual. You have the story that is told. In Egypt, there's a story of an individual whose name was Tutankhamun. There's the story of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. This is a story that is told over and over and over again, and it is a story that when you look at it in this day and time, there are such instances as the Lion King, in which the story was told. Osiris would be Mufasa, Isis would be Nala, and then Simba would be Horus. And so there's the myth, the story that is told. The third one is the ritual, where you act out what it is that these individuals did. You are acting like, you're pretending, you're saying, if I were this individual, then this is what I would do. And then the fourth one would be the aspect of becoming Osiris, or becoming Nyla, or becoming Horus, or being as Jesus. Remember, Christ in you, the hope of glory. So it's moving to that level where you are actually becoming that individual, or you are living. There's a statement in the Bible again where Jesus says, greater works than these shall ye do. So you actually come forth. Let me go down another way, in another particular way as well. Let me just talk about this in another particular way. The first way would be, the first level would be that you are a victim. You are being moved on by forces outside of yourself. And so you're always complaining because you feel that you are a slave and that you are being made to do something, and so you're complaining all the time. You don't like it, you rebel against it, but you're still a victim. You got what is called a victim consciousness. So that's the first level. The second level is where God does it for you. You look to God, you pray, you ask God, and God comes in and he delivers. We're going to come back to that in just a moment as well. But that would be the second level. The third level is that you begin to allow God to do it through you. David, when he goes out and slays Goliath, he believes that God will work through him and bring forth what it is that God wants to do, Spirit wants to do. And so Spirit comes inside of him and does it through him and brings it forth in regard to that. And then the fourth dimension would be that as God doing it in you, or God doing it as you. So God does it as you. You do it as God. You become as God. Jesus had a great illustration about that. He said one place, I am the light of the world. And then he came back and he said, let your light so shine. In another place, it says that the mind of Christ. We ought to have the mind of Christ. And then Paul says, we have the mind of Christ. And so that's the fourth dimension. Finally, let me just go back and talk about Israel as it is recorded in the Bible also, because this is a great illustration. Israel were slaves in Egypt. And so you have this aspect of the first dimension. Then they were set free. You remember what happened? They had the aspect of the different plagues that came forth in regard to Egypt. That was the second dimension. Then the third dimension would be again the slaying of Goliath, where they go in and they possess the promised land. They understand that God is not going to just pick up the sword and fight their battles for them. So they go in and they possess the promised land. And then David comes forth and he acts as God as he talks to Goliath, and he says, is there not a cause? Isn't there a reason that I should be benefited? And isn't there a reason that I should be successful in regard to this? So these are illustrations now of four dimensions. And what we want to ask you about is your fourth dimensional life. And really moving from where you are, if you're just simply complaining all the time, that's one thing. And if we want to live like that, then this video is not really for you. But if you're thinking about moving to the point where you're living out the true meaning of your life, the true purpose of your life. You are living as purposefully on this earth right now as Jesus was living on the earth, as Buddha was living on the earth, as Krishna was living on the earth. You are ready to move into your fourth dimensional level and bring forth your gifts, the only gifts that were delivered to the world in the exact way that you have emanated, come from God. You are a unique individual, and just like every butterfly is different, if you can see yourself soaring over your problems and approaching your situation completely differently, then you're ready to fly. You're ready to move from a caterpillar. You're ready to move into the aspect of going through the process of change and growth, like being in the cocoon. You're ready to emerge as the butterfly. So that's why we're talking about the 4 dimensions, because we've got a process that we know will help an individual to move through and become who they were destined to be, who they already are. And so we want to invite you to experience your 4D life.